So I feel that a lot of you guys who are watching me are all about that grind set. Now, I grind 7 days a week, and this video is going to take you through a sample week in my life. Now, this week was in early February, and at the time of me sort of putting together the video, it's sort of like early to mid-March. I've been pretty busy, obviously, otherwise I would have gotten this out about a month ago. But nonetheless, here we are. So what you're seeing now is a rough schedule of how my week normally looks like, or at least how I've planned my weeks. So the gym sessions, for example, that's just usually how they tend to fall. Sometimes they can be switched around a little bit. Same with the study and the business/side hustle work, that can also be switched around. That little text at the bottom, yeah, it just says it's what my usual week looks like. Now, if I have a social event or something, I will usually sod off a gym sesh to make up for that, because I'd rather not lose any more study time or side hustle time. But I'll play that by ear. I'll cross that bridge when it comes. So for this week, I didn't have any social events. So let's start with Monday. So Monday, my alarm goes off at 6:28 a.m. Now you might be wondering, well, why isn't it like 6:25 or 6:30? Well, I cherish every minute of sleep, and 6:28 gives me enough time to get to work on time without being late or anything. And it also allows me to not get there too early either. And usually I get to work at around 8 based on getting up at this time. Because it's like an hour drive, but the traffic is a little bit lighter on Mondays. Because I start a little bit earlier on Mondays to make up for the extra half hour. Because you work 38 paid hours a week, and with a half hour lunch break every single day, that costs me 2.5 hours of time at work each week. So if I was just to do 8:30 to 4:30 every day, I'd work 37.5 paid hours, and I need to work 38. So I make up the extra half hour by starting earlier on a Monday. And I do this just because it's the start of the week. I'll rip the band-aid off, and I'd prefer to still leave work at 4:30, so I just start earlier. So yeah, as for breakfast, I'll usually have a little bit of cereal, Weet-Bix or Just Right, just depends on how I feel really. Just as long as it's sort of fibrous and it's not too large in quantity. Like on days that I train at the gym, I'll have 100 grams of rice bubbles as cereal because I need the carbs for later in the day. But when I don't work out, I really don't need it, but I still need some fiber. Like rice bubbles doesn't really have fiber, but because I add in other calories throughout the day, the calories from that food will contain the fiber that I need. Whereas when I eat less on days that I don't train, I will need the fiber from somewhere else, since I'm not having the other foods that I would normally have on the day that I train. Hence why days that I don't train, I need a fibrous cereal of some sort. Okay, so you can see 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock drive to work. Obviously this is just a rough guideline. Sometimes I leave home a little bit later, or yeah, it's always a little bit later. It's never really earlier. So yeah, around that. 8 to 8:15, I usually just check my emails, and then I sort of dawdle on my phone, do the whole snap streaks thing. There's no one in my office at that time, so there's no one really to tell me off for being on my phone. And plus, I feel like most office people do that anyway. Like nobody really gets in and starts hustling straight away first thing on a Monday. You got to sort of ease into it. You know, some people rock up to work and they spend 10 minutes in the tea room making a coffee, having a chat to someone, so, you know. So 8:15 to around 10 past 9, that's just a rough guideline from what I've, how fast I usually work. I get the Friday tills done, so I won't go into it here, but my job is as an assistant accountant for a business of some sort, and I need to basically just count all the money in some tills of some sort. I might talk about it in one video if you guys want me to, about everything that's involved in my job role, but I won't here because I know this video is already going to be about 2 hours long, I reckon. Like, based on all the little audio recording snippets I've taken so far, this video is somewhere between 3 to 5 minutes at the moment, I think. And I'm only on slide 4 of all of my images, and that's not counting the 5 workout videos that I'll show later in the video. So I reckon this is going to be at least 2 hours. So yeah, I'm not really going to talk about everything in my job role because otherwise this might be 2.5 or 3 hours. So anyway, I basically just count money. And yeah, 9:10 to 10 o'clock, I'll finish the Saturday's tills. So that's 2 days worth of tills. And then I'll have Sundays to do after my morning tea. But the 2 images you're seeing on screen, 8:35, I'm watching a Stoic Finance video while I'm doing the little cash counting stuff. Now, this particular video had something to do with China and Russia. Like, I can't even see what the actual proper title is from that glare, but it's like sort of like a market update, this sort of video. Now, this was before Russia attacked Ukraine, so there was a lot of talk about, oh, are they going to do it? Are they not? And that'll show, like, you'll see that later in the video with some of the other, well, videos that I was watching during my lunch breaks and stuff. But that just goes to show you, while I'm doing my work, I'm sort of progressing in my whole investment thing. Now, the job I'm at doesn't mind if you have like a podcast or music you're listening to, which, you know, any office job really shouldn't, especially because there's no real time pressure for this thing. Like, obviously, this job that I'm doing here shouldn't take me all day to do these tills, but it doesn't hurt anyone with me having my little investment podcast, YouTube videos, whatever, out while I'm doing my work. Especially because as much as I don't mind doing this little task, it is quite straightforward once you get the hang of it. So I can like afford to do the job on autopilot while listening in on the latest investments, news and whatnot. But even then, I've managed to learn how to multitask pretty well. So even if this was sort of a mentally intense task that I'm doing, I could still do that as well as listen in on some investment stuff anyway. So that's just a snippet of my day up until Monday around 10 o'clock. So from about 10 till 11, I'll post reports, I'll have my tea break, which I'll have tuna and pasta salad or tuna and potato salad, one or the other. And then I'll note any discrepancies in the, well, tills. That's sort of a thing related to my job. If you don't know what that is, that's fine. It's just something related to do with my job. And then that little picture, that's just me with the little till stuff, accounting stuff. I'm sure you don't really care, but it's just it just paints a picture. I think now's a good time to mention why I haven't just filmed myself working. Well, one, I don't really want work knowing that I'm doing something like this. Not that they'd care, but I don't really want anyone that I know doing this stuff anyway. So if they see me with a little tripod and my little phone pointing towards me with the video thing, they'll be like, huh? What's that? And two, I think you get the point. You don't need to see me working, like literally doing my job. I feel like you don't really want to see that. Even though that's what a lot of other people I've seen do when they do like their day in the life thing. They'll have like some time lapse of them just potting away at their keyboard. Look, I think you get the point if I've got a picture just showing it. But yeah, that's just how I roll. And plus, I don't really have the time to edit something like that. Like, as I mentioned earlier in the video, I've been quite busy, and at the time of recording, it's about a month and 6 days until my exam. So I'm really under a time crunch to get this video out because I want it out ASAP, but I don't want it out anytime after April. Otherwise, I may as well just record another 7-day grind. Like, I'll just pick another week in my life and do a video on that, but I've already got all the notes and slides collated for the week that I recorded in February, so I really want to get this out. So from about 11 till 12 o'clock, I'll finish the Sunday tills. Now, this video I was watching was from Coin Bureau, and it was about the biggest debt bubble is the US debt bubble. So I'm sure you've heard stuff like, oh, the housing bubble, or the stock market bubble, or the crypto bubble. Basically, when they're talking about bubble, it means it's gonna like burst soon. Like, prices are way too high, everything's gonna come crashing down soon. And Coin Bureau did a great video on the US debt bubble. So if you wanna, watch that, then go ahead. It was pretty informative, but my only gripe, well, not gripe, my only, I guess, criticism of a video like that is the government's just going to keep inflating the debt anyway, and they'll find ways to be able to take on more debt. There's this thing called like a debt ceiling where their debt can't actually go any higher than that, but what the government can do is they can choose to raise that debt ceiling, which means it's like a get out of jail free card, and they can keep taking on more debt. It's like kicking the can down the road. So that's the only thing I have. Although there were some points in this video that show that eventually things are going to break. But for my current circumstances, that information doesn't really impact me too much, since even if it does happen, it probably won't happen for a little while yet. So there's not a lot of point in me worrying about it. But it's good to keep in mind. So if I ever want to really read up on this more, now I know that this video exists to give me that sort of information. So I thought I'd just mention that, just because these are just little tidbits that I learn throughout the week and each and every day that I go about my life, really. I'd mentioned it in another video on like the diversified grind, where every single day I'm always at either work and doing my investment stuff, and then stuff like side hustle, study, gym, etc. That stuff is kind of just dependent on the day, but every single day I will work and progress in my whole investment knowledge journey thing, whatever you want to call it. So 12 o'clock to 1:30, I post that Sunday report for the tills and whatnot. I'll have a 30-minute lunch break, and I'll have it outside so I can get some vitamin D, because I work indoors, so I don't get much sun, and a lot of nights I will gym right after work. So by the time I'm done with gym, the sun's already gone for the day. So I try and make the most of whatever vitamin D I can get. And I think 10 to 15 minutes of some decent skin exposure to the sun is enough anyway. Although I do wear jeans and a t-shirt for my job, so I don't get as much sun exposure as I'd like. I'd like to have like shorts and like a singlet or something like that, but obviously that's not practical for work. So I just have to make do with what I can. I'd like a bit more sun, but what can you do? I'm not going to just spend an hour outside now. I still have a job to do. So from 1:30 to 4:30, I got some bank reconciliations there, TLS bills. So that's Telstra. For those of you who aren't in Australia, Telstra is one of the largest telecommunication companies here. So they do a lot of like your phones and stuff like that, and they're responsible for like your phone bills and whatnot. So we had some, and I had to sort of organize it because like the company I work for is like owned by another company thing, and then there's other bills for those other companies, and they all get addressed to us because we're like the tax trust company, and it's a bunch of just accounting stuff that I'm not going to bore you with. So I had to just work through them. Basically, CC payments, it's credit card payments. I had to just work through some of them. Emails, yeah, just your generic emails that you always get from customers, clients, and vendors as well, and just other random shit. Really, I don't really keep track of it, absolutely everything I do, because all you guys want to see, I think, is just how the grind's going. You don't want to see every intricate detail, I'm sure. Okay, work day for Monday is over. So from 4:30 to 5:45, I'll drive home. Now, it takes me longer to get home than it does to get to work because traffic is a pain in the ass at that hour. It's just so congested. You've got like there's some school traffic, but it's mainly just all the tradies knocking off as well as the other 9 to 5 people knocking off as well. And unfortunately, I have to go through like this main city to get back home. So I really don't have a choice other than to get stuck in traffic. Like even if I finished half an hour earlier or later, the traffic would be just as bad. And I mean, I'm kind of used to this sort of those working hours that I'm working now anyway. So, you know, it is what it is, but it's fine because I can just listen to more investment stuff on the way home, or gym stuff, or lectures for my CPA course. So it's not completely lost time, although I would rather have a 10-minute drive home, but what can you do? So from 5:45 to 6:20, I'll just like put stuff away. So that's like my little lunch box for the day. I've got like my little dishes, just a bunch of generic stuff. Usually maybe I'll go for a little bit of a walk and get a bit more vitamin D. And maybe I'll just sort of dawdle on social media for a little bit, just catching up on some Snapchats from friends throughout the day. Maybe post something on my little side hustle Instagram pages. No, I won't really make a TikTok. They take a little bit more effort than an Instagram post, but like usually 5:45 to 6:20 is kind of like dead time for me on a Monday. It's like there's nothing I really get into. But yeah, the point is usually I start dinner around 6:10, at 6:20, and it goes till about 7:10. That's usually when I'm done eating and done cooking. It kind of depends. It's not like, oh, it's 6:20, I have to start dinner. It's just usually it's roughly that time. Or like, oh crap, it's 7 o'clock, I've only got 10 minutes to finish dinner. Like it just happens that usually it's around 7:10 that I finish dinner. Like I don't micromanage my time that much. Like I'm not I'm not Elon Musk or anything. Like my time isn't that, like I don't need to be that stringent with my time, if that makes sense. So for dinner, I'll have eggs and spinach. Now I don't have it for breakfast because that would require me to get up earlier and cook it and whatnot. And obviously I've got plenty of time by the time I get home from when I, get home till when I need to go to sleep. So I'll just have this sort of stuff then. So I'll have 6 whole eggs because yolk is loaded with micronutrients. And no, cholesterol is not going to kill me. Do your own research. Ansel Keys started this myth. So I kind of mentioned it in another video, but basically cholesterol is not bad for you. The myth originated from this guy called Ansel Keys. I won't elaborate here because this video is going to be long enough, but just do your own research. Just know cholesterol is not going to kill you. Check your own blood markers and stuff. Some people cholesterol is bad for, but for me, it's not. So the reason I just have basically protein and fats and no carbs for dinner is because it tends to cause me to retain water, which is obviously what carbs do. And it doesn't seem to get excreted until sometime during my sleep, which causes me to wake up in the middle of the night. Like I don't urinate myself, I'm not like a 70-year-old with bladder problems, but obviously you wake up needing to urinate. And once you do, sometimes I can't get back to sleep because my mind starts racing. Like as soon as I start thinking about just one thing, just anything, I'm up for at least another hour. So I'd rather not have disrupted sleep like that. So that's why I don't really have any carbs, within a few hours of bedtime. At least that's what I believe, because some nights I actually do have like carbs right before bed and I don't actually wake up. But I find that on those nights is because I'm extremely tired. Like if I do like a late night at Woolies after my office job, I'm not going to be bothered to cook eggs and my spinach thing or anything like that. I'm just going to want to have something to eat so I don't go to bed hungry. So I'll just have like a bowl of cereal. So not only is that milk, which is liquid, but it's carbs, which is water retention. So you would assume that I'd get up needing to pee in the middle of the night, but that doesn't really happen if I'm super tired. Like, this is just something I've got to actually work out with myself. Like, I don't actually know what causes it, although I believe that this theory you're seeing on screen is correct, but this will take more trial and error for me to actually figure out what's going on there. Basically, I'm just trying not to wake up in the middle of the night to pee because it's just extremely inconvenient. So here's some more dinner stuff. 6:20 to 10 past 7, roughly, dinner. And yeah, I don't know, depends how long it takes to cook and eat and stuff. I kind of burnt the eggs, but it's still edible and cooked to the point where its nutrients are optimally absorbed. Studies show drinking egg yolks provides half the bioavailable protein when compared to cooking it. I imagine it's the same for micronutrients. So years and years ago, when I was sort of starting out, there was some myth going around where you can just drink egg yolks, and that was like hardcore bodybuilder stuff, but the studies show that you're actually absorbing like half the protein if you do that as opposed to cooking it. Now, to my knowledge, there's no studies on these effects on the micronutrients inside egg yolks, but I imagine it's the same, as in like you don't get all the nutrients absorbed. But like the point is, it doesn't matter if I slightly burnt the eggs, they're still edible and they still serve their purpose, which is to give me protein and micronutrients. And you'll see I'm having spinach before I have the eggs because the spinach, I just microwave it for a minute, whereas the eggs take like 10-15 minutes to cook, kind of depends. So yeah, I have the spinach first. So yeah, that first image, replying to emails from gamification of life, don't check them super often, I legit forget I have got an email address. So yeah, I really only check it once every 2 weeks, and it's not like I've got a routine of, every 2 weeks check it. It just so happens that every 2 weeks I'm like, oh crap, right, I've got an email address, I should probably check that. A lot of it's just stuff from like Instagram and some little apps I've signed up for to like Canva, for example, to make posts for the Instagram. It's just stuff like that. But I think there was an email I got offered to be on some podcast of some sort, which sounds pretty interesting, and I'm keen, but as you can imagine, I don't really have time for that at the moment. So I told him, hey, look, I'll let you know after my exam's done. Maybe we can get something going. The second image, this is my personal emails. So there's a lot of spam in this one, but there's also a lot of like financial information stuff that I've signed up for. So I'll just scroll through them. If there's anything that catches my eye, I think is useful for me, then I'll delve into it a bit more, but if not, then that's fine. It only took me like 10-15 seconds to sift through. It's not like I was doing anything else with that 10 to 15 seconds while I was eating dinner anyway. Now, one thing I always get on a Monday night is a Seek weekly roundup. So Seek is like some jobs opportunity platform of some sort. And yeah, they always send like a thing called a weekly roundup. Now what that is, it's like jobs that are recommended for you. And I get heaps of them relating to like accounting roles. Now I just sift through them. I'm not going to apply because based on my current goals and my current routine, there's like, it would just cause a huge hassle for me to switch jobs. Even if I found a job that paid more, like it'd just be too much of a hassle. Like I've got a really good groove going, so there's no real point in trying to screw it up. And a lot of the jobs are related to sort of public accounting anyway. So public accounting is like the accounting firms where anyone can walk in, say, hey, can you do my taxes, or hey, can you help run my business, or like do the accounting for my business or whatever. My current job is like private accounting, so the accounting stuff I'll do is only for this business and this business only. So that's the difference. And yeah, a lot of these jobs are for public, and I'd like to learn a bit more about the whole private accounting sector anyway before if I ever consider moving to public. So the point of that is I've got many reasons not to actually leave my job. So I don't go and seek looking for a new role or anything. I just sort of just been a sticky beak, really. But yeah, as you can see in the text as well, seek job recommendations, good for job security, shows accounting was a good career path. Other shit too, like maybe some investment in, oh, hang on, that's what I just talked about. So yeah, good for job security. It's like, if I was to somehow lose this job, like for some reason the business and company I work for, and like the company that owns us in a way, just goes under for some reason, very unlikely, but if it just happens, well, I'm getting like 10 jobs thrown at me like a week, so I think I'll be right in the long run. So it's just good for job security, helps you sleep, knowing that your skill set is stable. So from 7 to about 9:30 on a Monday night, I'll work on side hustle or professional development, which is just study. It's just my way of saying study. It just sounds fancier, and like a study can apply to, like, I guess some high school subjects, whereas professional development doesn't really apply to high school subjects. It's more so like career related stuff. But look, it doesn't matter. It's just side hustle or study, basically. So this little image here you're seeing, it's at 8 o'clock. And what I was doing here, I was just checking for any other comments on my prior videos that I hadn't already replied to. There was one on one of my videos I did about my experiences with digital finance at CPA or something like that. I call it something along those lines. And there was a comment from like 3 weeks ago. Well, not 3 weeks ago now, but by the time I saw it, it was 3 weeks ago. I was like, oh crap, I should probably reply to that. So yeah, that's basically what I was doing in this little image here. Now this next slide, yeah, again, 7 to 9:30, working on side hustle or professional development stuff. So in the first image, you're seeing a little snippet of me studying in my lounge room. The Pokemon Mystery Dungeon thing you're seeing on the TV is like playing the sound in our little surround sound sort of system that we've got. And it's basically just the soundtrack from the game. Now, it's not too popular of a game, I don't think, especially because I think a lot of my audience is around like 18 to 20, which means you guys were probably like 2 when this sort of game came out. So you probably didn't play it, but it was one of my favorite games from a kid, but this isn't a video game review. But the soundtrack is just phenomenal, and I actually use it in the background of a lot of my videos. And it's just really good study music for me personally, especially because it's got no lyrics to it. I find if you try to study to music that's got lyrics, it really just doesn't help you study as efficiently as you could. So that's why I just blast these tunes while I'm studying. Now in the second image, me flexing my bicep while I'm sitting on the chair. So obviously I don't study straight from 7 to 9:30 unless it's like in crunch time for exam study, but it's not at this time. At the time of these images, there was like 2 months left, and at the time of recording there's about 1 month left. So I'll obviously hop on Snapchat here and there and just reply to a few friends here and there, maybe spend a couple of minutes every like 20 or 30 minutes just talking, And I figured, hey, whatever, I'll just chuck it here just cause a little sneaky, no pump, no decent, the lighting's okay, but no pump flex, just cause. And it was to this girl who I'm like friends with, I guess. We kind of had a thing a while ago, but yeah, we were just chatting, and then she said something along the lines of, oh, I bet you're still crushing it at gym. And I just sent that. I was like, yeah, probably more ripped than the other guys you talk to, because, there's not a lot of competition, because most guys just have dad bods or they're little skinny boys. Like, not to be condescending or anything, but it's true. Like, there's just not that many people around my area who are all about that gym life, So, yeah, whatever. Anyway, just thought I'd put that here because it's amusing to me, at least. So, now we're on another slide, And in that first image, I'm still studying at 9 p.m. So this is when I start to wind down. So I've got to get food ready for tomorrow, like brush my teeth and just generally reset my mind. If I'm doing too much education or gym stuff too close to bedtime, I have trouble falling asleep. So yeah, this is why I don't just study straight to like 10 o'clock or something like that. Like I don't just like finish at studying at 10 and like, oh, okay, time for bed. Like I've got to wind down and ease into it because as I just said, if my mind's racing too much, I have trouble getting to sleep. So I'll basically do something that's just not related to gym or study at all. It's kind of like a mini escape from everything, just temporarily, just so I can get to sleep, so I can recharge for the next day. Now in that second image, I am still doing some last minute study, but it's okay because my bedtime is a little bit later than 9:44 anyway, and I take these CBD gummies to help me fall asleep. Use my link in the description below for a $205 billion discount. I actually don't have any discounts, but you know YouTubers, they try and plug shit, so I'm just getting practice for if I ever actually get to that point. So cringe humor aside, they help me fall asleep. Now I elaborated on CBD gummies in my video, and it was called like Gym for Beginners or something. It was like an hour video that I posted like a month ago. And basically CBD gummies are the relaxing part of marijuana. It doesn't make you high, it doesn't show up on drug tests, and it might be illegal where you are, but do your own research. I think the laws are really easing around this stuff now, which is good to see. Now, they can be kind of expensive based on your, I guess, perception of these. So by the time I pay for shipping and exchange rate and all that stuff, it's about $2 for a gummy or like a little ring, or like ring in this case. Usually they're gummies, but in this case they're rings. So it's about $2 for each of them, which some people think is expensive, but if you're gonna pay, like, the way I look at it is you're paying $2 for a good night of sleep. Like that's definitely worth it. Like some people pay $30 for alcohol for a casual dinner. Like what? Like you'll be okay with paying that, but you're not going to pay $2 for a good night's sleep. Like, are you crazy? So 9:30 to 10:30, I'm just winding down before bed, as I've kind of already mentioned. I probably could have structured this a little bit better, but anyway, here I'm just checking my little YouTube stats. It's just motivating to see people actually somewhat enjoy this shit that I'm putting out. And I know some people find it helpful, so I'm glad I can help. And for me personally, I've always liked seeing other people's perspective on life and other people on their own personal grinds. And I found that it helps me stick to mine. So I'm glad that I can now that like the circle can come around, like now I'm the one who's inspiring other people to get on their grind. So that, you know, that's good to see. It's good to be part of this whole community thing. There's actually two YouTubers I used to watch, and I watched them because they were on like a side hustle grind with their YouTube channel, as well as like a full-time job in like the corporate career. I was like, oh, this is very interesting. The only problem is because their side hustle actually took off, they resigned from their full-time jobs and just did their, well, side hustle. Well, now it's not a side hustle because it's not on the side, but now they did their little YouTube thing and their business full-time. Now, they lost me as a viewer after that, because I think I'm still subscribed to their channel or something. I don't know. There's a lot of subscriptions that, a lot of channels I'm subscribed to that I don't really see anymore, but they've completely dropped off like my algorithm and stuff, because I can't relate to that anymore. Like, now that there's no differentiating factor between them and like other business owners that you see on YouTube anyway. So they've sort of lost their niche with me. So the point of saying that is I like watching people on their sort of grind like this sort of stuff, but just for me, people who just run a business, it's not super relatable. So I don't really like watching that sort of stuff. They also sort of gymmed, but they were just like sort of casual, healthy people. Like, they weren't into the whole aesthetics thing like I am. But I digress.